How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. Tough loss yesterday against the San Diego Padres. The Yankees have lost 3 in a row. Not ideal. You don't want to see that very often. Don't want to see that ever. But we're kind of utilizing a lot of our youth. Some prospects. Randy Vasquez got the start yesterday. Gave up 2 earned runs, courtesy of a Juan Soto nuclear blast. And otherwise was solid. 4.2 innings. Gave up 4 hits. I think he struck out like 5 batters or so. Maybe 6. He had a decent showing despite his lackluster numbers at the AAA level. But today, the Yankees elevated one of your guys, Ryan, Matt Krook, a left-handed pitcher that has been kicking some serious ass at the AAA level. Now, the Yankees have called up a lot of youngsters this season to help supplement deficiencies. Obviously, look at Jake Bowers. There's so many guys that we're kind of relying on youngsters here. I mean, we've seen Peraza get a couple opportunities. Obviously, Anthony Volpe's here now. He kind of skipped AAA altogether, basically. Then Johnny Brito has been sent back down since then. And now you got Matt Krook, who the Yankees will probably utilize, if I had to imagine, as a middle relief pitcher, someone who can take them a couple innings. And, I guess 12 appearances this year. He's 28 years old in AAA, 17.1 innings pitched, but he pitched almost 140 innings last year, suggesting that he has starter longevity. Ryan, I want to dive into Matt Krook, what he's bringing to this team. I know some people are going to be excited about him. If you haven't heard about him, this is your one-stop shop to learn everything you need to know. So, Ryan, before we dive into it, how are you today, my friend?
I'm doing well, and you hit on a lot of really good points with like the Yankees are kind of, they're seeing a lot of the guys that they're relying upon their younger guys not playing too well. That's kind of the inconsistencies of a team that's relying on young players. It's not uncommon. You kind of hope that those things iron out and that you get a couple guys back healthy. Like Stanton, Canley, and at this point, I mean, with LeMahieu struggles, you might even go as far as say Donaldson can make an impact. But with that being said, Matt Krook is a guy who, he's been a career minor leaguer. He was a top prospect not too long ago with the Rays and the Giants. And he's kind of bounced around injuries. The pandemic doesn't help either. You lose a year of development and an opportunity to keep pitching. He wasn't able to make it as a starter. His command just wasn't good enough. And that's fine. Some guys are just not made out to be starters, but the Yankees have moved him to a reliever role and he's been excellent, right? He's striking out nearly 50% of batters he's faced. That's a 47.9% strikeout rate, guys. That's unbelievable, right? His ground ball rate's 50%. So he's generating a lot of strikeouts and a lot of ground balls. Those are two of the best possible outcomes you can get if you're a pitcher. That'll lead to a lot of success. He does have a walk problem. That's something that we do have to address. But when you're striking out as many batters as he does, I think you'll take walks and you'll just be okay with it, right? You think like Ron Marinaccio, he has a very high walk rate. And while he did give up a home run yesterday, for the most part, as a Yankee, he's been relatively, dominant. Matt Krook has 4 pitches that have worked really well for him as whiff pitches. His lowest whiff rate on any given pitch is 38.5%, which is still well above league average. He has a changeup, a cutter, a sinker, a sweeper. That sweeper is the big breaking ball that everyone's obviously going to be focused on. But one could argue his changeup's one of his best off speed or non-fastball offerings. His sinker, he throws really well, even though it's in the low 90s, high 80s. The fact that he releases it from such a steep angle makes it a really tough pitch to pick up, right? For hitters, it's hard for them to try to pick up his arm angles. He's very deceptive. His cutter's been a great pitch for him. He's overall just got a very diverse arsenal that allows him to attack lefties and righties. Again, the changeup can work down and away to righties. The cutter can work in on the hands of right-handed hitters and away from left-handed hitters. The sweeper is a big breaking ball that he can use to strike out lefties and go back toward righties. And then the sinker plays to both lefties and righties pretty well. So overall, it's a really diverse arsenal. He's been able to get a lot of strikeouts. He's been able to keep the ball on the ground, and he doesn't give up a lot of hard hit balls as well. So just a really strong season for him on the whole in AAA, and you hope that translates to the major league level.
Absolutely, man. I mean, look, the Yankees don't have that many left-handed pitchers in the bullpen. I think that's kind of where we see his value come into play. And we've talked about this pretty extensively with some of the other right-handed pitchers, notably Ron Marinaccio, Michael King. They're utilizing that tailing changeup that goes outside against left-handed batters, and it's generating a lot of success. But it's always good to have left-handed pitchers in the repertoire, having them as options. Now, you kind of mentioned the longer sample size for Matt Krook, 138.2 innings last year, had a 4.09 ERA. Not the best at the AAA level, certainly not exactly what you wanted to see, but over 17.1 innings this year, he has a 1.04 ERA. And if you go back to 2021 in AAA, again, 76.2 innings, had a 3.17 ERA. He's a high strikeout guy. He's striking out nearly 18 batters per 9 innings right now, which is absolutely insane. Now, the problem with Matt Krook, guys, and keep this in mind, he walks a crap ton of batters. 6.23 batters per 9 he's walking this season. So while his ERA is tremendous, he's kind of utilizing this, walk one batter, strike out a batter, maybe just put it in play, weak contact, and then get him out. Obviously, 50% ground ball rate is very solid. Last year, 55.7%. In 2021, he had a 62.7% ground ball rate rather. So definitely great. He's not giving up any home runs. So this is a bullpen piece that you may have to live through the walks. And I know, Ryan, you hate walks, especially out of the bullpen. You are a big no walk guy. But I'll say this: high strikeouts can sometimes cover up that problem, and especially when you have a guy like Matt Krook who doesn't give up home runs. So, those walks are always dangerous because you walk a guy and then give up a home run. You're kind of wondering, damn, that's where you really get hit. But if you can walk a guy, strike out 3 straight guys, the walk doesn't look as bad. So, are you concerned about the walks to the next level? Because as I referenced, 6.23 walks per 9, but he's striking out almost 18 batters per 9. So they kind of just they even out in a way. But are you concerned about that variable the next level?
Yeah, no, obviously I'm gonna say that that's the weak link that Michael King, Matt Krook has. Matt Krook is not a guy that's gonna go out there and, as you mentioned, attack the strike zone consistently, but that's fine, right? Alluded to this with the, not giving up home runs and striking out a lot of batters. FIP, which is fielding independent pitching, takes into account your strikeouts, your walks, and your home runs. That stat is gonna ding you a lot if you go out there and walk the ballpark. But as you mentioned, when you strike out as many batters as he does, your strikeout to walk rate is still excellent. His strikeout to walk percentage is 31.7%. That's elite. That's not just good. That would be the best in the Yankee bullpen if I'm not mistaken. That's automatically great. Again, walking guys isn't great, but when you don't give up home runs and you strike out batters the rate that he does, you end up with a sub 2 FIP, right? Again, that takes into account how many guys you walk, right? And it really punishes you for that. So, when you account for, as you mentioned, the strikeouts and the lack of home runs, not that it's not an issue, but it doesn't make him a bad reliever. It just is the thing he struggles with. And no player is perfect. Every player has their flaws, and that happens to be Matt Krook's flaw. Now, do you get concerned that maybe, in a tough spot, you can't bring him in with bases loaded right now? Yes, that is a concern, but in how many situations is a reliever coming in like Matt Krook with bases loaded? You probably bring him in, when you have a base to give, and that's fine, but you also know that he's going to keep the ball on the ground and that you have a chance at any given point in time. You have runners on first and second, and you bring him in with 1 out. All it can take is one good sinker for the inning to end, right? So, I think that plays into yes, he can walk guys, but he also gets so many ground balls that, if he walks the leadoff guy, it could end up being 2 batters faced, 2 outs. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, right now the Yankees have probably one of the best bullpens in baseball. I think that's objectively true. Now the question is, can the starting pitching continue to perform well? Randy Vasquez gets pulled into the really kind of big spot against a very potent Padres team that's been struggling themselves, actually. But this 3-game stretch has not been about the pitching. I kind of want to take a little bit of turn here because, Matt Krook, obviously very good talent, lefty, could do some good thing for us, but I want to take a little bit of a turn here into the offense, right? We've scored 2 runs in the past 2 games. That's simply unacceptable. We're not getting those timely hits. The pitching on the other side has been really, really good. And we haven't been capitalizing with runners in scoring position. So, I'll ask you this. Is there anything that you've noticed from these last 2 games that kind of stood out as these players need to continue stepping up? I know Judge, obviously tremendous, has a couple games where sometimes he's quiet and then he picks back up and he hits 5 homers in 6 games. You're like, okay, he's back. Harrison Bader's kind of fallen back down to earth a little bit. So, there are some guys that are evening out to their career averages and those hot starts are certainly kind of tempering down. Is there anyone they're looking at right now saying we need this guy to step up?
Yeah, here's the thing, and this is kind of how I feel about the lineup in general. When Willie Calhoun hits, Willie Calhoun's not a good hitter, so Willie Calhoun not hitting good isn't a surprise. And it's not like you can sit here and say, he'll have to turn it around for this Yankee lineup to wake up because he's probably not going to, right? He's not a good hitter, right? The career numbers suggest that. Jake Bauers, same situation. Look, it was a good flyer to take with Bauers. It was a good, kind of risk to take. There was not really a risk because there was nothing you could lose. But it was a good, ticket to try to figure out, but it hasn't worked out so far. So, you got to start thinking about how that's going to end up looking long term. IKF's had a good month of May, but we know that he's not a good hitter in his career. So, same situation there. You're not going to get offense from your catchers. You know that. So, you're starting to, rattle off position groups. Volpe's really struggled with the bat. Now we're talking, 5, 6, 7 guys who are not either A, not expected to do well, or B, aren't doing well. It does frustrate me a little bit to look at like Oswald Peraza hitting the way he's hitting in AAA, and then having to look at Willie Calhoun taking a big at bat, or Jake Bauers pinch hitting for Ben Wartfed, because they don't have anyone else to turn to, right? If you can DH Willie Calhoun every night or close to every night, you can play Oswald Peraza every day. Josh Johnson's been on the IL for about 2 months, and he was the third baseman, and you had a spot open at third, or at least an infield spot open to give Oswald Peraza reps. They called him up. They didn't play him every day. At some point, you have to ask yourself, if a guy's hitting the way he's hitting in AAA, and you consider him a top 100 prospect, and he's a consensus top 100 prospect, and you value him to the point where, you wanted to keep him in your organization, when do you actually play him, right? Like, I don't want to hear, oh, Oswald Peraza is such a great defender. I want to see it. Oswald Peraza is a talented hitter. I want to see it. I don't want to see the scouting reports. I want to see it on the field. He's clearly major league ready. It does bother me to see bad players playing, and then you have a top 100 prospect in AAA playing well. Volpe obviously can step it up. That's a guy that's struggling that I think can turn it around. But are we really going to look at like Jake Bauers, Willie Calhoun, Kyle Gashioka, Isaiah Kiner-Fluff, and saying, all right, one of you four guys, you guys got to step up, because quite frankly, like, that's not what their career numbers suggest you should ask from them. You should ask for, just being a replacement level player, or in Higashioka and IKF's case, they're really good defenders. So, you expect them to provide defense, and in IKF's case, speed as well. But that's really all you can do. I've been talking about Austin Wells for a while. Austin Wells is someone that should not be in AA, and he somehow still is. It's a matter of, hey, can we start like moving guys around? Let's start, I don't want to hear about how good the farm is. I want to see how good the farm is. I'm hearing about how good Austin Wells is. I'm hearing about how good Everson Pereira is. I'm hearing about how good Oswald Peraza is. How about we freaking play the guys, right? How about I get to see these guys get a shot at the major league level? I'm not saying Pereira and Wells, they're in AA, that they should be called up, but can they get to AAA? Because clearly they're too good for AA. Clearly they're killing it in AA, and they've been in AA for more than just this year. They were there last year, where they also had good numbers. And again, Oswald Peraza killing it in AAA. Last like 71 games there, he has a 140 something WRC plus. He's hitting well over 300. I think you can agree with me here. It's time to stop hearing about how good these guys are. Let's see how good these guys are, because what are their alternatives? I don't really care to see Willie Calhoun. I'd much rather care to see Oswald Peraza.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, end of the day, Willie Calhoun is probably gone, or Jake Bauers is gone when Stanton comes back. And I think like it's just a ticking time bomb. Willie Calhoun obviously offering nothing defensively and very little offensively. Like, you could even argue that Aaron Hicks has more value than Willie Calhoun. So it's like, when you're in that conversation, it's tough. It's kind of a difficult situation to be in. I feel like the Yankees could go with more valuable pieces at times. And, this is Aaron Boone, and feeling like, and he likes Willie Calhoun. Like, Aaron Boone has this weird obsession with random players. Willie Calhoun's one of those random players that he's like, he's got pop to his bat. Like, he can do this, he can do that. Like, Willie Calhoun, like, occasionally will get a hit, like, occasionally hit a home run, but, like, for the most part, is he reliable? Not really. But, this is kind of the way the Yankees are. We don't really understand all the moves they make. But, guys, hopefully we can get back on this winning track today. Afternoon game with Luis Severino on the mound. A good chance to get back in the winning column. But, guys, I'm always happy to hear your perspectives below in the YouTube comments. Make sure to like and subscribe as always. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.